Audio Addiction, we have American Standards with us, and he can say his name and what he does in the band.
Cool. My name's Brandon Kellum, and I sing for American Standards, but sing is kind of a relative term for the style.
Awesome. So my first question, Brandon, how did you start out the band? How did you get your members, and how did you guys kind of form?
Yeah, so we started the band in 2011. Actually, we had all kind of been in other bands, and those bands broke up. Our late guitarist, Cody, he reached out to me, I think, through a Craigslist ad or something like that. And he had heard of my old band and said, do you want to do something different? And we both kind of agreed we didn't want to do anything too serious. We weren't looking to go back into the studio and start recording and touring again. We just wanted to do something for fun, play some house shows. Maybe when a band came through that we enjoyed, we would get on the show. And it very quickly, within the course of a few months, turned into something much more to that, where we were touring a lot more often. Fast forward to today, we've gone through several members. Unfortunately, Cody's no longer with us. And now at this point, it's really just Corey and I. Corey, the original bassist, now plays guitar, and then me. And then we've got a few new guys that have been with the band. Well, news relative. They've been with the band for probably a couple of years now.
Okay, awesome. And how did you find out about them? Were they other bands from like local in the Arizona scene that you had heard about, or how did you guys get connected as well?
Yeah, exactly. It was just basically this. They had played shows with us, so we knew of each other indirectly. And when we were looking for a new drummer, we got Mitch on board. And Mitch had played for quite a few other bands in Arizona. And Steve, we knew him through coming to our shows, actually. And kind of saw him at his job. He was working at Hot Topic, I think, at the time. And as a joke, I just said, hey, do you play an instrument? And he's like, I play bass. And I think he had never picked up a bass in his life at that point. And he came to practice. He learned his songs, and he's been with us probably about 2.5 years.
Awesome. And I always love when kind of like when like a fan of the band kind of per se, like, you know, some bands that you just see and they're like, oh, well, they know you play an instrument. So like, I mean, maybe not in that case because obviously he didn't know how to play bass at the time, but I always think that that's such a cool like interaction, how like just music brings people together, you know?
Yeah, no, honestly, I think I owe probably 99% of the people in my life to music. You know, everybody from my best friends to even my girlfriend kind of met through playing music.
That's so cool. Well, next question, Brandon. Speaking about cool things, what are some favorite venues you guys like to play at or even go catch a show at?
Back home here in Phoenix, probably one of my favorite is this place called the Rebel Lounge. Actually used to be called the Mason Jar. It'd been around for 30 or 40 years, maybe even longer than that. And a small little room, kind of musty and smelly inside, but every huge band has played through there at one point. Anybody from, bands like Nirvana to Megadeth and Tool. Cool. And then more recently in the early 2000s, bands like As Lay Dying and lots of other hardcore metalcore bands. But yeah, this place only holds like 150 people jam-packed, maybe 200. So it's a small place. Now it's Rebel Lounge. A guy named Psycho Steve runs the place. He treats all the bands great, puts us on some really awesome shows. So yeah, no complaints there, and it sounds fantastic. That's a great place. Also back home, there's also another one, Joe's Grotto. Really any venue that allows us to do like an all-ages show but still have a bar there. Those are always kind of win-win situations. On the road, though, I don't know, I guess the first one comes to mind. I love playing Denver. Denver has a cool DIY venue called Seventh Circle. Aaron Say runs that venue, and he just treats all the bands well, and it's just a really big community there. In Salt Lake, they always treat us great. Jordan Clements and Jeffrey Hackery own this place called Metro Bar, and that place is a really great place, and they're always taking care of us. So pretty much anywhere that will have us, and you know, we end up becoming really good friends with the owners, and just like you said, kind of build relationships.
I also think it's cool, like, for bands, just, like, like, when you're touring and stuff, it's always interesting to have, like, venues that really kind of care about the artist, and even if you're, like, maybe not the biggest touring artist, or even if you are the biggest touring artist, it's a really cool feeling to, hear from bands be like, okay, these guys are great, like, work with them, because I think that for me, like, whenever I ask this sort of question, it's like, if I ever visit those states, like, I want to go to a cool venue or something like that in Arizona or, whatever state or band that I talk with. and then as well as that, just to kind of meet new people that really do it well and just kind of like bring bring the scene alive and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, being in a band is really just about kind of making new connections and experiences, and it becomes a vessel for us to kind of travel around the world and do that. I mean, most of the time we're not playing on stage. That's, 30, 40 minutes a night. The rest of the time we're kind of out and about around town, meeting people.
Yeah, awesome. Well, my next question, Brandon, to kind of follow up the venues, what was the last show that you attended?
The last show I attended, um, probably would be I saw the Glassjaw and the U show came through town. They played at Van Buren, and that was a really cool show. I'm a huge Glassjaw fan. I like to use it as well, and I will say though, Glassjaw played so damn loud at this venue that I almost had to stand outside just to be able to distinguish what was going on
Oh
because
wow.
it was blaring loud. And then the Used played, and it made me realize how many hits the Used has. Like every song was a sing along for them, so it was a pretty cool show.
Did they play like a mix of like the older stuff? I know that they had probably at that time released a new record, so were they playing like are they playing, like you said, were they playing like a lot of the older stuff, like their hits, the things that they're known for?
Yeah, I think it was the majority of it was probably older stuff, older stuff that everybody knew. But I think, like you said, they had just had an album come out. They did mix in some of those songs, but it was I mean, it was playing, and this venue is a huge venue, and I was surprised that they were able to sell it out.
Awesome, awesome. My next question, Brandon, probably the most important question I'm going to ask. What are some of your musical influences?
Influences. I think going back to when I first started playing music, I remember actually my dad bought me a guitar for like Christmas, and I at the time had no interest in playing music really, and it got me thinking like, well, it'd be cool to kind of sing for a band, and I think maybe him giving me the guitar was more of a subtle hint that I didn't have a singing voice at all. So I actually over time kind of picked up the guitar and learned a little bit. And I was really into, I mean, this is when new metal was huge. This is like 2001, So I was really into bands like System of a Down and Deftones and Rage Against the Machine, Slipknot. So I learned a lot of that stuff when I first started playing, which maybe speaks to my ability in playing guitars. I just learned to play a lot of power chords, basically. Then I kind of moved on and got into heavier stuff. I got into stuff like Poison the Well and Every Time I Die and Refused. And those were really the bands that kind of shaped playing the music that we play today.
That's cool. I can definitely like. I typically try to make sure I listen to each band that I have come on and stuff like that. And for me, like I could definitely pull from those sorts of influences, that like hardcore, like almost punk sort of stuff. Those were the sorts of vibes that I was getting. So I like that. I also have a familiar story as well because much like you, I got a guitar for Christmas as well. So I think it was also a subtle hint to be like, don't sing, just play guitar. So I've been playing for about like 12 years now. So I think for me, I can assimilate with the whole getting the guitar for Christmas and like wanting to do that.
Well, so when you got the guitar, what was like the intro band, the stuff that you first
Oh
started learning?
man. Well, the much like your story, I got it and then I was like, I don't want to be in a band. Like I don't want to play guitar like that. I think that's dumb. And then like for some reason the following year, like right around the same time, I was like I'll just pick it up. Why not? I'll just play it. And then a lot of the stuff that got me into guitar and like playing was like my parents are big like classic rock fans, especially my dad. So like it was like Styx, Journey, like
Oh, nice.
all that sort of stuff. So I grew up listening to that, and then my first teacher was like that atypical like hair metal guy, like super long blonde hair, like
Okay.
shreddy guitars. So he taught me like Guns N' Roses, like Poison, or not Poison. I don't
Yeah.
remember. Def Leppard
Air metal.
and like
There you
hair
go.
metal, pretty much, in
Yeah.
a nutshell. So then that, and then probably more or less like in the style that I listen to now would be bands like August Burns Red, Devil Wears Prada, like Under Oath.
Cool.
Those sorts of bands really got me into this type of music, and obviously I love it. So wouldn't be doing
Yeah.
this if I didn't love it. But my next question, Brandon, kind of to follow up influences. Who have you been jamming recently?
Recently, so I actually got pretty into this band called Greyhaven.
Yes.
Greyhaven. super sick. They just did that tour with Norma Jean, and their album before this most recent one was like when I first started getting into them, and it was fantastic. And then this newest one really kind of showed how versatile the band was. I mean, I love that band. More recently, actually, just today, I didn't realize that Jason Butler from Let Live, I knew he did The Fever, but he's got this band. Trying to think of the name. I feel like you posted something on it too.
It's Pressure Cracks.
Pressure Cracks. I literally just pulled that up today, and I listened to it, and I really liked it. I mean, it was like when I first heard the first two singles from The Fever, it wasn't that I didn't like it. It was just, to me, it was a little bit, I hate to say boring. It was just a little repetitive, and it's just, I wasn't feeling like the same energy that he had from everything else, and like how dynamic he is as a vocalist. I will say with Pressure Cracks, it's heavier. I mean, it's it's not as melodic as Let Live was, but I'm personally into it a lot. So yeah,
I would care to agree. I've been on the Greyhaven wagon recently. That's probably that's still my number one record for this year. I know it's so early, but like it's so good, so diverse. They're actually playing like a house show near me in like a week, so I'm super stoked to like see them, because I had missed out on them on that tour. So they're doing like a headliner set, so I'm definitely making my way out there, like I have to. And then Pressure Cracks is really great too. One of my friends was like, oh, Jason's doing The Fever, and then he's doing this other band, and he's like, you should check him out. And I was like, okay, sure. So I went to go check out the record, and I was like, dude, this is so good. Like, it's definitely not Let Live, but it's got that like heavy vibe of Let Live that they had, that just like in your face, like, and that's what I would care to agree with you on The Fever. Like, it was something that I was missing, just like with the songs. Like when I was listening to him, I was like, I'm missing that like punch that he has, like, as a vocalist. So like I definitely appreciate that he does both, because it's like two sides of the fence. So I'm down for it for sure.
It's also interesting because considering where like Let Live ended, they were getting, I think, much more on the melodic side.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you out with these two other bands, I feel like they're kind of a different spectrum too. You've got this much heavier, raw, sounds more like old hardcore, old metalcore, and then you've got this one that's more arguably rooted in like rhythm and almost at times a little bit nu metal with The Fever, I think. So I mean, yeah, he's definitely got a really versatile voice, which I super respect. And I also respect like how much character he has in his voice. Even when he's screaming, like you can feel the character. It's not just like this stereotypical low or high yell, you know?
Yeah, he has like that defined characteristic about his scream, and I've loved him in every iteration that he's done. And I think that The Fever has that more melodic side that like Let Live had, and then as well as like Pressure Cracks has that like I mentioned earlier, that heavy like aggressiveness. So I like how he plays both sides. You know, obviously there's a little bit of cross branding a little bit, but at the same time I like that he keeps them separate. And like I feel like The Fever has that like Rage Against the Machine like vibe to it, you know. So
yeah, that's where I guess I touch on the like Rage Against the Machine. I never would have pegged them, or at least today wouldn't peg them as a nu metal band, but they came up around the time that nu metal was popular, and they had a lot of that like heavy groove that nu metal was known for. And now that you see like nu metal kind of making a comeback in a sense, and there are a lot of bands that are starting to do that style again, I feel like The Fever in a sense will tangentially be like kind of lumped into that revival of nu metal, although they, just like Rage, kind of fall somewhere on the side of it, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But my next question, Brandon, a fun one. If you guys could pick a song to cover, what would it be?
That's a good one. So we started off doing a couple covers. We did covers of Me Without You, Alexa on Fire. We did probably the one that we did the most often was Refused. We did Rather Be Dead for the good first 2 years of being a band, and we did that so much that people got to know at local shows that we were going to play that song. And then we started getting compared, like when we finally started getting some press and blogs would pick us up, we'd get compared to Refused all the time. We'd be, you know, a heavier version of Refused. And I think that's awesome because Refused is one of my favorite bands, but like when I listen to us, I really don't hear the connection to Refused. Other than the fact that I feel like maybe people heard us do the Refused song and maybe thought it was an original song. And this is also before Refused got back and started playing shows and had the new album too.
Okay.
as soon as they got back, started playing shows, that's kind of like, I've got this hard line, like if you're going to do a cover, do it of a band that's not actively out playing that song. Because why are you going to come pay $10 to see us play a cover of a song you can actually see from the band?
That's true.
So it's hard to say. I know the guys always kick around like to do a cover of System of a Down, because we're all kind of into System of a Down, and knowing it's a much different style than we do, we can probably put a cool spin on it. But then once again, System of a Down touring again too. We actually all get tickets to their show they're playing here pretty soon with Mars Volta. So.
Oh,
Or I had to drive.
I had to drive in.
There you are.
Close enough.
Yeah.
I knew what you meant. It's either one or the other. I feel like a lot of people mix them up, not on purpose, like just on a complete accident.
Yeah.
What song would you want to do if that was the case? I mean, obviously, they're touring now, but I meant like if they weren't touring, like if that just didn't happen, what would you want to go with?
I think System of a Down always starts off every album with like the best song on the album to me. So either the very first song off the self-titled album, which I want to say is it called Pluck, or I can't think of the name of the song now, but the very first song on the first album, or potentially like Prison Song off of Toxicity.
Ooh, Prison
that's
Song.
a great song too. Like really all their albums start off strong, and all their songs are so I mean, they're fun, but they're heavy at the same time, and I think that's why I like them. You know, they talk about heavy subjects, but they do it in a way that like is just kind of poking. Yeah.
I'm gonna try.
I hope you.
I'm gonna try to
You
look
got
this up.
keep me honest here. I'm starting to second guess. It may not be Pluck, but Pluck is on that album.
I think you're right. Let's take a look. We're gonna. It's Sweet Pea.
Sweet Pea. There you go. It starts off with like the artificial harmonics, and that's a really banger of a song.
You
know, I didn't even ask you.
Correct. There is Pluck is actually the last song off the records.
Complete opposite. I didn't even ask to thank you. I'm doing like a YouTube no right now. I didn't even put my thing horizontal. Is that gonna be a problem later on?
It's no problem. I'm not gonna be hating on that. That's totally cool.
You know, another funny thing too is like I used to be in this band about I guess it's 12 to 15 years ago, and we did last year. We did a 10-year reunion. We hadn't played as a band for 10 years. All the guys had have like wives and kids, and they live out of state, so they all flew in to do this 10-year reunion. And we said we're gonna wait another 10 years to do it, and we ended up doing one year later, which is this past Saturday. And I busted my lip open at that show. So like right now, I've got like this like healing fat lip. So like. You know, so it looks like I got like a cold sore on my lip or something. That's all just because like on Saturday, so 3 or 4 days ago, it was just gnarly like golf ball of a bruised like lip and face. You know.
That's rough.
Yeah.
What you do for music, I mean, I appreciate that immensely. You know, I mean, we share the name Brandon, so I gotta represent it. You know,
proudly. There you go.
Next question, Brandon. Speaking about fun questions, favorite food to eat?
Favorite food? I'm a sucker for spicy food, and I'm kind of like a spice chaser. Like I'll purposely get something that I know I'm gonna regret later on. And so I love Thai food. I love like curries. I love Vietnamese food. Pretty much anything with like lemongrass or curry flavor is like my thing. And then just getting it as spicy as possible is like where you're just sweating from the brow, and it's like a challenge to finish it. But yeah, I mean, as I get a little bit older, I'm realizing maybe that's not the route I should stay at. But that's where I am in my life right now.
I'll have to agree with you. Maybe not the spice chaser thing, but I do like spicy food, and I kind of put my foot in my mouth because we did this series, which. By the way, to all the viewers watching this, it is going to be reinstated again. But we did, I don't know if you've seen the YouTube channel Hot Ones, where they do the hot wings and they have the celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I did one for the channel. It's called The Hot Seat. And I had two members from completely different bands come on, and we like asked each other questions. But we got to the bomb hot sauce, and I literally wanted to cry because it was so terrible. It was like it's like, I don't know if you've had it before, but it's like
I've got it in my fridge right now. Like no lie, the itty bitty one in my fridge, and it has no flavor. It's just all like spice, and you put like a drop in a bowl of like chili or any type of food or like soup, and it makes it a very unpleasant experience. It's not even like good spice at all.
It's almost like I kind of have that combination of like it tastes like if you're like eating a battery, like just that like
Yeah.
real like tinty, like it's terrible. So to bomb, I know you'll never rep me, but I don't want to rep you, so it totally works out. But
Because
my
you're
God,
conscious of dollars.
oh dude, it was so bad. But anyway, yeah. So if you ever come out here to New Jersey, we will have to do
Well,
one
it's
episode of the
down.
hot seat. That will be interesting. But my next
I,
question,
you
Brandon.
know, one real quick,
Yeah,
the
sure.
best that they don't do it anymore. But they used to have one called aardvark sauce.
Yeah,
It's the
dude.
hot sauce from Portland, and it's not hot. It's not insanely hot at all, but it's just such a good flavor. And like they have three different flavors of aardvark, but the main one, the habanero one, is just good on everything. I mean, it's better than any of the like people go nuts about sriracha. Aardvark is like once people find out about it, it will be huge.
I will 1000% agree with you. Like we were going through like the first half. Like I don't remember what season we like kind of mocked, but my buddy Dave had that. He had the aardvark sauce. He had the hot one sauce, which is actually really good, the fiery chipotle, and
Yeah.
then this other one that I really liked was the High River Rogue, the scorpion pepper one, the one that has that like Louisiana like print on it. That was great. That was probably the last one. The only two that like I really suffered on was Zombie Apocalypse, which again was much like Da Bomb and just terrible, and then Da Bomb. Those two easily the worst hot
Yeah.
sauces I've ever had in my entire life.
That's funny. Yeah, when you go to a place that like festivals have them a lot, or if you go to like a hot sauce shop and they've got like the chips laid out so you could actually try them, I always go straight to the hottest one, and they always try to warn me. They're like, "No, you don't want to do that, sir." And I just like obnoxiously squirt like a huge like dollop on. Um, but once again, pay for it later, and normally sweating from the face. I turn pink really easy, so
I feel that. I feel that, and like we had like hot chocolate. We had like chocolate milk on deck. Like we had milk. We made sure we were prepared because, it starts at one end and then as you know it comes out the other end. So it's just so bad.
I'm looking to that. Next time we're in your area, we're definitely doing this,
All
and
right.
I want to get the other guys to do it too because they're definitely not spice chasers like that. So I think it'd be probably more funny to watch them do it.
Oh, absolutely. I want to try to and as well as for me, it's good because like I think I hit like a level where it just becomes like just like I got it, and then at some point it'll just kind of like fizzy out. So I'm hoping that we take it a little easier, but I mean I wanna have some fun too. So I don't have a problem going too spicy, Brandon.
That's funny.
Awesome. So my next question is, if you could pick somebody to collaborate with, whether it be a guest spot on your album or a producer, who would you want to go with?
Let's see here for vocalists. Um, I guess if we're gonna take it like in a really weird direction, one of my favorite lyricists of all time is Tom Waits.
Oh,
He
cool.
not in hardcore music or heavy music at all, but I love Tom Waits. I also Eric McNally from Foxy Shazam.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
got like a crazy range from when he was doing the old like Blood Brother style like grindy stuff to the more recent like Queen style, and then now he's even got like a dark wave project that's pretty interesting. So those are really cool artists that I think would be great. A local artist actually that's from Phoenix, anyways. It's called Andrew Jackson Jihad. He has a really cool
Oh,
voice.
yeah,
It's a
I've heard of him. Yeah.
singer. Yeah, they're great. And when it comes to like producers, I mean, Will Putney is kind of cream of the crop, and he produced the last Every Time I Die album. Cool story about him actually. After we released Anti Melody, he reached out to us and he sent us an email and he said, "I really like what you guys are doing, but I think you've got to show more range and more dynamics in the production of it." And like listening back, like first off, I was completely floored that he even listened to our album, but also 100% agree that I think on Anti Melody we had some really good songs, but based on all the circumstance that went around it, we had to self-mix the album, and we had a lot of challenges in putting it out. So when I listen to those songs, and especially with perspective now, I completely think like, wow, what if we had the same production on those songs that we have on our newest song, Weep? So Will Putney would be a great producer to work with. And then like another pie in the sky is like God City that does like, Converge and every other band in Chaotic and Math styles. that'd be a great one too.
Yeah, Will Putney, man, he's so good. Like he's got some great albums under his belt. Like, and even in his other band, End, he's like phenomenal. So, I definitely appreciate his style, like just the way he does stuff. Like especially like his heavier music that he like produces and stuff is it's so well put together. So, I mean,
Yeah,
it's possible now because he lives in New Jersey. So, like it
go
could happen, Brandon.
put the word in. Put the word in. If you
Yeah,
see him,
I
tell
will.
him the new American Standards is fire. We'll have to, I probably should send him an email with the new stuff because I think I did tell him that I'd send him the new song. And like I said, I'm so proud of the way that Weep came out because we finally found someone that like understood our sound. We always go to really great studios. Actually, the last studio that we went to before Weep was the same studio that recorded the last Let Live album,
Oh,
and
sick.
they did Mars Volta. Speaking of them, and Bad Religion and Andrew WK. So we got some really cool tones. But I think the mix and the production on it is what could have used a little bit more than it has. So now we found someone that's surprisingly closer. It was much cheaper. It was easier since it was local. We didn't have to drive to California every other weekend to record. And I think the song really just kind of shows what the direction of the band's going to be.
Well, that's awesome. Well, glad you found somebody close, but we'll just at Will on Twitter and be like, "Yo, Will,
There
come
you
on, let's do it. Let's make it happen."
go.
My next question, Brandon, you did mention you play guitar before this, and now you're a vocalist. If there was another musical instrument that you could just shred at, what would it be?
It'd have to be drums. I think like every kid wants to play drums growing up, but like most kids' parents don't want them hitting something loud all day. Also, drums are arguably probably the most expensive
Yeah.
instrument. I'm sure like when you started, I know at least when I did, I had like the stereotypical like Fender Squier starter kit that costs like $99 or something that comes with a 15-watt amp. And I probably stuck with that for way too long. So yeah, I mean, there's no starter drum set that starts at $99. So it'd probably be drums. I mean, I dabble. I'm not good enough to do anything more than the basic stuff. But in Arizona, I feel like in almost anywhere, I feel like drummers are the hottest commodity. And every drummer's in 4 or 5 bands, and everybody's looking for a solid drummer. So when I think of Mitch is actually the only member of American Standards outside of Corey and I that have recorded on 2 consecutive releases. So it's only a matter of time until like he gets scouted by 10 other bands and starts touring nonstop with them.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. He sticks with American standards because that would be cool. And I would care to agree with like drummers. I feel like I think that's just across the board. Drummers are hot commodities because like I'll find if I interview other bands, they're always like, "Yep, we need like a drummer. He's actually in another band, and then he's in this band, and then he does touring for this band." I always find that there's
Oh yeah.
always a need for a drummer.
Yeah, and it's like the drummer that has the time, he has the equipment. He has transportation. Those are all things that like it's the perfect storm. It's like finding a unicorn, right?
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, by far the most talented guy in our band and the most dedicated guy too. So
Awesome, awesome. My next question, Brandon, my personal favorite that I ask of every band, if there could be a video game character that you would want to be, who would you choose?
video game character. I'm very much into video games, but all like retro, old school, like NES game stuff. Is I grew up fairly poor, so like we had like a regular Nintendo, like years and years, probably a decade after it was even popular. I'm sure like PlayStation 2 was out when we still had the NES. So I'm very much a Nintendo guy, very much old school guy. More recently, over the last few years, I actually purchased like a retro trio, which plays like Genesis, Super, and regular Nintendo, and I spent way too much money just repurchasing my youth. So that's kind of the backstory of like what I'm into. As far as like a Nintendo character, I'd pick something like random obscure. Like if you've ever seen the game Burger Time, it's just like this guy that runs around and burgers. I'd be like that one, or just something like super weird like that, where I just got to run over burgers all day and make these like insanely burgers are like 10 times his size, and he's running from like eggs and stuff like that. That'd be kind of fun, I guess. I don't know what his backstory is. Like with a lot of those old school games, you got no backstory. You're just like, all right, this is the thing. So
I don't think there should be much backstory with Burger Time guy. I'm pretty sure.
I hope there's a movie that comes out for Burger Time.
Yeah, we'll get like who we're gonna assign to this movie.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's gonna be like J.J. Abrams, Burger Time, across the
Lens
street.
flares nonstop, and
Yeah,
yeah.
lens flares nonstop. It's not like, and I'll have to give you credit. I'm gonna give you the award for most obscure character that I've gotten ever. I don't think anybody has ever said Burger Time on this channel, so you definitely get the award for most obscure character picked in audio addiction history. So
Absolutely going back and seeing if there's like a wiki that has his name on there, because he's got to have like a name at least, right? I mean,
he could. Dude, your guess is as good as mine, you know? But my next question, Brandon, in your opinion, who puts on a great live show in terms of bands that you've seen in concert?
the band I've seen most in concert, I've seen Every Time I Die probably 15 times. I think every single time they've come to Arizona in the last at least 15 years or more. So they put on a great show. It's a really fun, energetic show, and they're probably at the. I mean, every time they put out an album, it's like they're at the top of their game, and sometimes that somehow they still, step it up. Even with their last album, I mean, like Map Change is one of my favorite songs they've ever put out as a band. And that comes from a guy that like Hot Damn is my favorite album. So like one of their heaviest albums,
Yeah.
and then favorite song is off their new album, and it's like their softest song, So Every Time I Die is great. I mean, The Chariot and Dillinger Escape Plan are kind of give-ins for that style. But really, yeah, any band that's up there that's doing more than just playing it note for note what's on the album. If I want to listen to the album, I'll pop it in my car. What I really want is like the experience and the crowd energy and everything else. So
I would 100% agree with you. I always love seeing bands, or if a band could just like replicate how they sound live like so well in a concert. I think that also is like something for me that like, if I get video at a show, like I want to be like amazed if I am like watching it physically or I'm watching it on my computer like as I'm editing it. I think that is always like the keys to like a great band. But I would care to agree with you on Every Time I Die. Like I saw them with Beartooth, and I've seen them before, but I mean this most recent time that I saw them, I was just like blown away. They're just so energetic and wild. And then another band that I feel like is just insane is like Let Live. I saw them
oh yeah,
on tour with Underoath for their farewell tour, and I tell this story all the time, so I feel like it's a broken record story, but I'll keep it brief. So they were playing first because they were opening up the tour, and all I remember is Jason was like, "This is our last song. Like, we're going to go wild." So what happened was he had the tour like crew throw their bass player's bass cab out into the crowd. And so then,
oh no,
so all these people are carrying this bass cab, and we're all like, "What the hell? Like, why did you throw this bass cab out there?" And then he's like, "I'm gonna count it in, and then I'm jumping on this bass cab, and you better carry me around." So
bass cabs are heavy to begin with, so bass cab on top of a person—that's pretty impressive.
I was so surprised because I was closer to the back, and all I see is like a bunch of like big like dudes like carrying this thing, and then Jason on top, like singing his face off. Like that will be forever ingrained in my head as one of the best shows that I've been to in my entire life. So, Jason,
That's we actually my band before American Standards, we played quite a few times with Let Live, and this is way back. I mean, far before they're even doing Warped Tours and bigger things like that. And Jason, actually, we did a little mini tour. I feel like this is probably had to be 2004 or 5,
cool,
somewhere around that time. And we did like a New Year's Eve show with them and a few other shows around that. And every single night he brought a Hulkamania T-shirt, like a different Hulkamania T-shirt, and ripped it apart. So like it just made me think of how many Hulkamania T-shirts he had to purchase just to do that stunt every tour, or every show of the tour. That's awesome. And Every Time I mean, that like one thing about them. So we have played with them as well with American Standards, and we've all looked up to those guys for a long time, and they're just as cool as you could possibly imagine they would be. Just the most down to earth guys. I mean, they drank with us before the show. They actually picked up a T-shirt and a vinyl. They gave us one of their vinyl for the Salem EP before it came out.
Oh, sick.
Invited us back to their hotel bar, and we were watching like pro wrestling and just slamming beers and everything. Just really cool guys. So nothing but good things to say for them. And they're, once again, I mean, they're getting up there when it comes to like this style of music. They're in their late 30s, early 40s, and Andy's still out there. He's out pro wrestling now on top of the band. So I have no clue how they had that level of energy, and he's probably in better shape than he's ever been. So
That dude, like every time I see them, I'm like, man, he just gets bigger and bigger every time
Yeah,
every time he's at his show. It's just like, man, I don't like that guitar looks smaller and smaller and smaller every time I see him at his show. It's kind of crazy.
like part of me hopes now that like maybe he's just buying smaller guitars.
Or the guitar is getting smaller, that's what
Yeah,
I'm thinking at this point,
yeah,
like seeing them from like Warped Tour where like he was big, but like those last tour with Beartooth, I was like, man, that guitar looks so tiny on him, it's insane. But
yeah.
next
He
tour,
actually,
what were you gonna say?
oh sorry, he just got signed to Blackcraft, the clothing company. Actually wearing them. I've half my closet is Blackcraft now. They sponsored us like 6 months ago and just sent us boxes of T-shirts. But they also started a wrestling division of Blackcraft, and Andy just got signed to Blackcraft Wrestling. So that's gonna be kind of cool to see him on that.
That's definitely neat, and like I said when, or like you said when he said about wrestling, like I knew he did wrestling, but like I'll see posts like every once in a while, every time I die, like Andy's doing wrestling. I'm like, that's insane. He can't be beat in terms of just like
Yeah.
coolness level. He's just like way above
Yeah.
everyone else.
Hell, you're on the East Coast. I mean, they're doing that the Shipment Show, which is the annual Christmas show in Buffalo. Just come up there and see that because they do the wrestling and they do the concert. So we all have tickets to that, so we'll be flying out for that.
I'll
You
have
know,
to check
unless
it out.
they decide to put us on the show, and hence for if that gets around, we would play the show. You know, maybe if the offer was out there too.
Just we'll tweet at every time I die. Let's get it.
I know that every day. It's just like on an hour, like every single hour, they just get a tweet from us, and
It's just on like kind of like a repeating thing. They
yeah,
just like keep seeing it. They're like, man, it's like almost like they wanted to be on this show or something.
yeah, right. Subtle hints. It's subtle hints.
Subtle hints. I like it. Next question, Brandon. Speaking about great bands you've seen live, if you could compile a dream tour, who would be on it?
The Dream Tour. I feel like I'm just gonna be like repeating a lot of bands I've already mentioned here,
Totally
but
cool.
yeah, like I mean, I would love to see like Refuse being a fairly political band on tour with a band like System of a Down and Rage Against the Machine, like all bands that have, I think, similar themes to their music. All play heavy music, but all a very different style of heavy music.
That would be sick. Like, I don't think there would have been like in terms of heavy tours. I think they would just be so, like you said, it would be heavy, but it would be diverse at the same time. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that as a listener. Like whenever I go see a show and like how they arrange it up, like that would be a sick tour. Absolutely.
and that's the shows we try to play. Like we always try to play shows where it's not this four bands playing over. So yeah, no, I appreciate those types of shows. Like I always kind of wonder like how the crowd will get along when they're completely different, maybe demographics or age ranges or whatever it may be. But I do think there'd be a lot of people that would just kind of be exposed to something completely different and actually might be into it. And that's what always works to our advantage.
Oh, I totally agree. Like, it's so cool, especially like mixed genre shows. When I see them, I think that that's always interesting because you know those people that will come out for those bands, and then you know the other people that will come out for the other band, and then there might be like a small amount of people that like all of those bands, and then they'll come out for both of them because you would never see that happening. So, I think that that's always a cool thought. Like whenever promoters do that sort of stuff, like people who make tours, I think that's really cool.
Yep.
All right, Brandon. My next question, another fun one. Favorite TV show, favorite movie?
Favorite TV show. I mean, I got to give it to Netflix. They've kind of got a monopoly on the market right now. So probably most recently, like Black Mirror.
Ooh,
I love
yes.
Black Mirror. One of my favorite TV shows of all time is Twilight Zone. So Black Mirror is pretty much like if Twilight Zone was done today. As for movies, what have I seen recently? That's a hard one. I feel like I've probably watched a lot more Netflix than I've watched like Netflix docu-series and things like that than I've watched movies lately. So that's a tough one. Nothing comes to mind right.
If you want to give like two Netflix recommendations, I'm fine with that, dude.
The most recent thing I watched on Netflix, we just watched that docu-series about the Indian group Guru that starts what they're calling like a cult, and then he moves to Oregon. And this is, I mean, a docuseries, so it's obviously a true story. And he has this kind of commune in Oregon where it's just thousands upon thousands of people living on this farm in Oregon. I'm trying to think of the name right now, and it's funny because we literally just finished watching it this past weekend. But it's really good. It's interesting, and it's also interesting because there's multiple documentaries that have been made about it over the years. And we started watching some other documentaries made on it, and it paints a completely different story than the Netflix one. Like the one that we watched on YouTube was like some old maybe PBS one, and they made it seem like this weird sex cult, which like kind of, if that's true, glaze over in this 6 hours of the docu-series on Netflix we watched. So it's kind of interesting hearing a different perspective.
I'll have to go check that one out. That sounds very intriguing. So I'll have to go give that a watch. Thanks for the recommendation. I'll have to go see it maybe.
I'll give you a name as soon as I remember it, or I'll look it up on my queue.
Awesome. My next question, Brandon. If there was one album that you could listen to for a month straight, a desert island album, what would it be?
That would probably be Toxicity. Toxicity by System of a Down is just like nonstop bangers. Every single song is like, and it's also nostalgia for me. Like I always think like, do I get nostalgia confused with like a good album? And I probably do, but I'm okay with it. The island vibe though, when it comes to that, I don't know I'm gonna be listening to like Jimmy Buffett or anything like that, on the island nonstop. I don't listen to that not on the island, so.
Well, I totally get that. I just feel like people vibe with what they want to. The nostalgia goggles are on. So I appreciate that. That was your answer for that, and that's totally cool.
Everything is always System of a Down. That might be like the reoccurring theme here.
Well, maybe it's a subliminal thing. Who knows? Maybe it's like, American Standards, System of a Down, new tour coming up,
I'll be down if Surge is like watching your show, let's do it.
Awesome. Well, lastly, Brandon, the most important thing, just in case we get interrupted again, tell them about your band, American Standards, where they can find you at, and anything coming up in the next couple months.
Yeah, American Standards, we're pretty much on every single streaming platform there is. So whether you have Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Bandcamp, we're on it all. We just released a new song called Weep, which is on YouTube. It was premiered through Decibel Magazine. So all the shout outs to Decibel Magazine for premiering that for us, for Beheading the Traitor for doing the upload for us, and for the r/metalcore community that did an AMA, which was such a cool experience, and we'd love to do something like that again. We are putting out a couple more singles here shortly. Our goal is really every other month to put out a new single, so keep an eye out for that. And then actually at the end of this month, we'll be swapping over Weep to be a free download. So if you haven't already picked it up because the 99 cents seems a little bit steep, just hold out to the end of the month and you'll be able to download it for free. The first 500 downloads are going to be free on Bandcamp.
Just make sure to pick it up when it's on, get it for that 99 cents. You can splurge a little bit, don't buy that coffee or don't buy whatever, that drink. Just go support these guys, American Standards. All of the links will be in the description. Go subscribe to their YouTube channel, which will be at the end of this video as well. And if you enjoyed this interview, share it around, subscribe, and hit that thumbs up. It goes a long way. And I care to ask you, Brandon, how'd you find out about the channel? Because you had just sent me an email. I'm always curious how people that just kind of randomly show up in my email box. Like, how did you find out?
Yeah. It was just based on, how the Facebook algorithm is. I think I've got more guys in bands on my news feeds than probably anything else. So I saw people sharing around some videos, and I started saying, okay, what's this, And I clicked on one of the videos. I'm like, oh, you've got, 20 or 30 interviews up on here. And I saw a lot of them were live, so I didn't know if you're doing Skype ones or just audio-only ones. So I kind of went from there, and that's why I reached out.
Well, thank you very much, Brandon. I appreciate it. It's really cool that Facebook isn't kind of just beating me down, that people are checking out my
channel. It's beating us all down a little bit, right?
Well, thank you very much to the Facebook gods for getting this set up. Thanks to Brandon. Thanks to American Standards for coming on. Definitely check their stuff out. And we'll be talking with you soon, guys. Peace.
But thank you.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.